good morning. We're going to go ahead and get started. Thank you all for coming today. We're really excited to chat with you this morning about some international application tips. Great. Make sure our PowerPoint is working here. Yes, hopefully you're in the right place for the International Application Tips webinar, and that's what you're here for. Your presenters today are me. My name is Ashley Lotzenheiser. I'm the Associate Director of Graduate Programs here at Washington University's Olin Business School. I work primarily with our MBA programs, so our full-time and our part-time MBA programs.
And I'm Jessica Voss, and I'm also an Associate Director of Graduate Admissions here at WashU's Olin Business School, and I work mostly with our specialized master's programs. We'll click through. Before we get started, we want to make sure that everyone can hear us. A few logistics. So participants have been muted to reduce background noise, and we want to make sure you can hear us. So if you're having difficulty, please use the raise your hand function or send us a message in the chat box, and we'll do our best to make sure that you can. Throughout the presentation, please make sure to ask your questions. Put them in the Q&A function, and we'll address those questions at the end of the session or as they come up throughout the presentation.
Great, we're getting some confirmation that we
loud
are loud and clear. All right.
All right, so today what we're going to talk about is the parts of the application. So what does our application consist of, both for our MBA programs and our specialized master's programs, the timeline for the application, and then upcoming international events. So parts of the application. Here at Olin, we have a pretty simple, straightforward application. There's an application form you complete. It's a couple of pages long, just asking you some information on how we can reach you, your name, your date of birth, that kind of information. We require that you submit your test scores. We will accept either the GMAT or GRE. And then we will, for some students, also require the TOEFL or IELTS test. You just upload your unofficial copies to your application. At the time of application, it is not necessary to submit the official test scores. Same thing with your transcripts. You'll also upload your unofficial transcripts to your application, and then you'll complete a couple of essays and a resume as well. There are a couple differences with our application. So we'll have for the MBA application, there is no application fee. For the specialized master's program, there is a $100 application fee. There's one other difference between the two applications that we want to address, and that's the Kira video. All international students for specialized master's programs will need to do a Kira talent video. Once you select on your application that you're an international student, that will launch an email that will be sent to you within 2 to 4 hours of selecting that. And it's a short video, 3 questions that you'll complete with 1.5 minutes to respond to each one. And you'll get that link, and you have to complete that video prior to submitting your application. So make sure if you don't receive your link within 2 to 4 hours of doing that on your application, reach out to us and we'll make sure you get that. Oh, and then the interview. We'll also talk about the interview. So again, the application form, it's very straightforward. It's a couple pages long. We just want that logistical information from you, how we can contact you, your email address, your demographic information. We'll talk a little bit we'll ask about your work experience. We will have you fill out some information about some required courses that you may have completed. Is there anything else?
I think that's just about it.
Yeah, I think so too. So from there, we'll move on to what else you need to do to submit your application.
Absolutely. So moving on to test scores. So as Jessica mentioned, we do accept either the GMAT or the GRE exam. We do not have a preference between the two. You can submit your unofficial test scores when you apply. So generally that's an upload of either the unofficial test taker copy. It can be a copy of an official score report for either test. So we want to make sure that you actually submit that score report, and it will need to include your overall score and then the score in each of the 2 sections for the GMAT. So make sure you do actually include the breakdown of those subsection scores. And again, generally for most students, they're uploading a copy of the test that either they received or maybe that they had sent to other schools. So it's pretty easy to go ahead and upload the test scores. It is important to note that to have your application be complete, you will have to have completed the test before you submit your application. So what that means is if you're planning on taking the test after the application deadline, your application would not be considered in that round. Additionally, if you're planning on retaking the test, so maybe you took the test and you've scheduled a retest and you put that on the application, it is up to you to make sure that you follow up after that retest. Additionally, if you list a retest, we will wait to review your application if possible. So again, if you decide not to do a retake, but you've listed on the application, definitely let us know. Otherwise, we may be holding your application for review until you retake the exam. So to be on the safe side, I would say make sure you take the test before the application date, and know that if you are retaking the exam, that may not be able to be considered as a part of your application. So the other component of test scores for international students is the English proficiency exam. And we do accept either the TOEFL or the IELTS exam for English proficiency. So this is our policy about the TOEFL. And I know there's a lot of words on here, so I'm gonna try to make it easy. We're gonna talk about it really in two parts. So if you are an international student, likely we will ask you to take the TOEFL or the IELTS exam. Now, this test must be taken within 2 years of the start of the program. So if you are required to take the TOEFL or the IELTS, that test needs to have been taken after August 1st of 2015. So this is not only for the admissions process, but this is also for visa processing. So this is a very important date to note. So if your TOEFL is older, maybe you took it in college, or maybe you took it for another graduate degree, you may be required to retake the exam. Again, not only for the application process, but also to help with the visa processing for the US. Now, if English is your native language and maybe you took your university degree in English, it is possible that you will qualify for a TOEFL waiver. So you will qualify for a waiver if two requirements are met. You have taken a minimum of 3 years at a university where English was the primary language of instruction, and you received your degree from that institution. So in essence, most students, that means you've attended that school for more than 3 years and you graduated from that school. Now, the kind of telling us that you've received your degree and that it was in English most likely is shown on your transcript. So it is likely that your transcript will mention the degree or the medium of instruction. So just make sure that that's listed on your transcript. And additionally, it will be easy for us to figure out if you attended that school for more than 3 years because you'll be submitting your transcripts to actually include your grades as well. So really to reiterate, if you're an international student, we're going to ask you for the TOEFL or the IELTS, but there are obviously some instances where you've done significant coursework in English already that we can waive that. Additionally, as Jessica mentioned, if you're an international student applying for a specialized master's program, the Kira video that you'll be completing is required whether or not you take the TOEFL or the IELTS. That's required for all international specialized master's applicants. On the MBA side, that video is not a part of the application, so you can just defer to what the TOEFL or the IELTS waiver policy is.
Great.
So I started stealing Jessica's topic, which is the transcript, so I'll let her go a little more in depth there.
All right, so the transcript. So again, for the application, all of the documents that you upload to the application can be unofficial documents. We won't require the official documents until you're admitted and enroll in the program. And so for transcripts, what we need is the transcript of academic record that's going to show all of the courses that you have completed, including the grades, the credits. If you did transfer credits, make sure that the grades and the credit are reported for those. If they are not, we will also require the transcript from the institution where you completed those credits. Again, another kind of difference between the specialized master's and the MBA is that we will want to see your degree. So if you have completed your degree, make sure that's either A, reported on the transcript, so showing the title of the degree and the date conferred to you. If it is not put on the transcript, make sure you also upload your diploma or a copy of your certificate of graduation as well. For specialized master's students, we understand you may not have graduated yet, so you're just going to upload your most current or most recent transcript to the application. Again, just making sure that they report all courses. If they're not in the English language, we do need English language translations to be uploaded. You can upload both your original language transcript as well as your English language version to your application. We do not require WES or any educational evaluation like Wes, we want your official document. So don't upload an educational evaluation in place of your transcripts. We will want your actual transcripts. So please make sure that you upload. They can be unofficial at the time of application. Just upload those transcripts to your application. We will take care of the rest here.
So yeah, you might have a transcript that you can just scan in on the computer, or you might have a digital download, things of that nature. Again, it's just saying you don't have to have those officially sent from the university, but it needs to be the actual transcript from the university. Yes. Absolutely. What's next, Jessica?
The essay. Keep calm and write your essay. So we really enjoy reading your essays. So our essay prompt, if we go to that, is at Olin, we pride ourselves on our supportive, close-knit community. We aim to know every student by name and become familiar with your story. So please introduce yourself to us as you would to your Olin classmates. There's a 500-word maximum on this. Really just take the time to introduce yourself. We want to know a little bit more about you. What's your motivations? What's your background? I mean, I like reading them. I like reading more about something unique about yourself, or, you know, anything that you want to introduce yourself. So if you were to come to class that first day, what would you stand up and say about yourself to your future classmates? So, you know, take the time to think about it and how you would do that. Have someone else read it. You know, have someone else read over your essay without knowing the prompt, and then ask them, you know, show them the prompt and ask them if that fit what they were looking for. Definitely take the time to proofread. We do, you know, as much as we want to learn about you, we are still looking for communication skills. So definitely take the time to proofread, read over it, have others read it.
Yeah, absolutely. So one other component we want to touch on is the resume. And so we like to say that you know, your resume is a work of beauty, but it's not going to look like a real work of beauty. It should be a professional resume, just like you would when you're applying for a job, and it should really meet kind of professional resume standards. And so really in the US and for US business schools, we like to see a one-page resume. And this resume that I'm using here is actually an example from our Career Center to students about what a good resume example is. And so if you're a little confused about whether or not your resume fits with kind of US business school standards, look around at some business schools' Career Center websites. As I said, I pulled this directly from ours as a good example. This is actually an undergraduate resume, but again, thinking about what we're really looking for, we are looking for concise, accurate, and professional. So again, you're really trying to make sure that this is a professional resume. Proofed for grammar, spelling, and conformance. So again, thinking about that this should be a professional resume that you would give to an employer, making sure that you've proofed that and making sure that it is, again, professional in spelling and grammar. Customize the specific position that you're seeking. So we understand that you might have used this resume for applying for jobs, but this resume really should also be for business school. So make sure that you are thinking about the skills that you've gained from your jobs, the experiences you've had, and how you can really translate those to contributing to the business classroom. Also, action and results oriented. So when you're thinking about writing a job description for each of the employment or internship experiences that you've had, make sure that you talk about actually the results that were achieved, the action that you took, have good action words on there, and don't just tell me what the job description is. Tell me about what action you took and what results that you achieved. Additionally, the more that you can incorporate concrete data, the better. So I don't need to know everything about your job, but telling me about specific times that maybe you were able to save the company money, maybe you were able to increase profits, you were able to increase sales, number of customers, whatever it might be. Actually having some good results, some data-driven results in there can be helpful as well. And I think the biggest thing is error-free, and this means not only that of spelling and grammar error, but also that the information is accurate and that you have not embellished, and that there is not information on your resume that's false. That is extremely important as well. Now, I will mention that the resume, again, is generally a one-page resume. Most of the time for the MBA program, we're looking for you to focus on your post undergrad experiences. So tell me about the jobs that you've had, any significant internships, and of course, tell me a little bit about where you went to school briefly. Now, on the specialized master's side, you may wish to focus more on summer internships. Maybe you have had a significant experience as an undergraduate in a student organization. That's definitely okay, but you want, again, the information not only to be concise and accurate and professional, but you also want it to be relevant. So instead of focusing on something that maybe you did 5 or 10 years ago, tell me about the more recent history, what you've done for the past few years on your resume. We will review your resume very thoroughly. We might also be looking at LinkedIn. So if you do have a LinkedIn profile, understand that we might be looking there as well when we're evaluating your application. And understand that this is one component as we're evaluating your work experience. But as Jess is about to talk about in the interview, we're going to get a lot more into that as well. So Jessica, take us to the interview.
Yes. So a little bit about the logistics of interviews. They can be on campus. They can be in person in a city that we're traveling. Most often, especially with international students, they're going to happen on Skype. So you're going to talk with one of our admissions staff, and the interviews are typically about 30-ish minutes. And really the goal of an interview for us is to get to know you. We want to know more, again, about your background, your experiences, and we want to talk to you about your motivations in pursuing either the MBA or the specialized master's degree. One of the things about our interview is that the interviewer that you're interviewing with has only seen your resume and your essay at the time of interview. So that's really important information because that's the background that they have going into the interview. So a lot of the questions will be about your background. We'll talk, ask you to introduce yourself, walk you through that information, and then we're also going to ask you for concrete examples. We want to talk about examples of how you fit into the Olin culture. We'll talk about definitely, diversity and leadership, and we want you to give really concrete, specific examples when we're asking you questions. So if you're invited for an interview, make sure you've read through your essay and make sure you've read through your resume that you're providing to us, because that is information that will get brought up a lot in the interview. Again, the interview is a great time for you also to shine. Let your personality show. Don't be nervous in the interview. We enjoy doing the interviews, so don't be nervous. Really let us see who you are, and that way when you show up on campus, I know one of my favorite things is students that have come to campus after doing the interview. I remember interviews with those students, so I think that's a great opportunity. So really stand out from the crowd in the interview. Let yourself and your personality really show to the interviewer so that they can really get a sense of who you are and what kind of classmate and what kind of student and alum you'll be here at Olin.
Absolutely. We'll also generally at the end of the interview give you a chance to ask some questions of us. So that's definitely a chance where you can shine. If you ask a very thoughtful question, I would say in an interview, do not be asking something that you can Google or that you can find on the website. Definitely be asking something that is more in depth, that shows that you've done your research. If you're at the interview stage, as Jess said, this is your chance to shine. So absolutely make sure that you utilize that time well. And again, think about this as a professional interview. So just as you would for a professional employment interview, prepare business professional attire. If you're on Skype, make sure that you test the software first. Oh my goodness.
Yes, please test. Make sure you have a strong internet connection. I mean, we know sometimes there's issues with Skype, but please make sure you've tested your connection. Have a professional background. Try to, if possible, avoid your dorm room. Think of it like you're applying for a job and that you're being looked at for all things about yourself.
Yeah, so Skype a friend, see how the video works. It's funny that we're having a little bit of video focus problem every once in a while, so don't be like us and don't have that problem. But this is what happens when you try to put two people on one video camera, yes. I think. So don't be us. But definitely, as I said, test that software, as Jess said, make sure that you get a chance to shine. We very much enjoy this little gummy bear picture too.
We do.
So, we are the WashU Bears, so it's also a very appropriate picture. So we're going to dive into a little bit more about the logistics of the application. So what you can expect once you submit your application. So I'm going to walk through it as if you're applying for our international deadline, our final international deadline, and kind of walk you through what you can expect for the rest of the process. So the international deadline is February 1st. So it's very important to note that this date is sneaking up on us very quickly. This not only gives us a chance to review your application in its entirety and really give dedication to each and every international applicant and every applicant at this point, but also gives plenty of time for any visa processing that may need to occur. So please note that this is an important deadline. This is the international deadline. After this point, we will not be able to accept international applications for either the SMP or the MBA. So February 1st. Now the international deadline, you apply by February 1st. Please do not wait until the last second. I would say mark it in your calendar as if it's January and maybe 30th, and give yourself a little bit of wiggle room because, again, you do not want to be waiting till the last second for this application deadline. It is our most popular application deadline as well. Now, if you submit your application and it is incomplete, we will let you know. We will say what you're missing, when you need to submit it by, and give you very specific instructions. However, that does delay the processing of your application. So I, again, would suggest that you do not wait till the last minute, that you mentally and in the application check off each of the boxes, make sure that you've done all the things that Jessica and I have talked about. I would say the most common things that are missing in the application that cause delays are, first, your transcripts are not complete. So maybe you just submitted your diploma. Maybe you just submitted grades from 2 years, but not all 4 years, making sure that those transcripts are absolutely complete. The other thing that causes delay is if you indicate on the application that you've retaken the GMAT or the GRE, or that you plan to retake it, and then you don't follow up. You say, oh, I took the GMAT in December, but I'm going to retake it in January 30th. You submit on the 20th. We wait and wait. You never get back to us. Oh, I never took it. I never retook it. Well, we have no way of knowing that. So those are the two most common things that cause delays, is if you're listing a retest date that you don't follow up on, or that you don't complete your transcripts.
And I'm going to stop you really quick. The Kira video for international students for the SMP, you have to complete your video before you submit your application. So if you wait until February 1st and you launch that, and you have to wait 2 to 4 hours then to submit your Kira video to get your link, make sure you start the application and get that done before February 1st. The deadline to submit is February 1st. So you need to allow yourself some time for that as well.
Absolutely. Interviews are conducted by invitation only. So it does take us, we do a preliminary review process. So we will not start inviting people to interviews on February 1st. So these are conducted really through the notification date. So if you don't hear anything, please have patience. This is a process that takes some time. Additionally, please be checking your spam folders or your junk folders, knowing that that is something that can often be filtered since it is a larger mailing. Make sure that you are checking not only your inbox, but also your spam folder. Additionally, decisions are released for the February 1st deadline. Decisions are released on March 29th. They will not be released any earlier. So you can kind of mark that date in your calendar, and it is possible that you will not hear any communication before March 29th. It is also possible that if you've not heard anything from us, that we are unable to update you on your application. So again, be checking your inbox and be checking your spam folder to receive any communication. And as I said, the notification date is in fact on March 29th, no sooner. So these are a couple of tips. So I mentioned checking your spam filter and checking your inbox. Make sure that you're utilizing the same email for any communications that you have. So what that means is when you send us an email or when you complete your application, make sure that those are the same email address, because that's one way that we can check to make sure you are the person that you say that you are. Might be someone with the same name. So when at all possible, make sure you use that same email address. Additionally, if you're asking for something specific or sending us information, that may delay the process. So what that means is if you send us an email from another email address that we don't have on file, there's no way for us to connect those two together. So when at all possible, utilize the same email address. So you may have created an email specifically for applying to business school, not a bad idea. but make sure that that's the only one that you've been using to communicate with our office. Additionally, it prevents us from thinking that there's more than one person that is in fact just one person. So please utilize the same email at all possible. Additionally, anytime you have any communication with our office, we recommend including your AYID, which is your applicant ID. It's a 7-digit number, and that, again, helping with people that might have similar email addresses or the same name, please include your AYID in any communication. So if you call and talk to someone, you leave a voicemail, leave your AYID. If you send an email to our office, again, utilize your AYID. When you do your Kira video or you do a Skype interview, you will also be asked to include your AYID. So make sure you write that down in an easy place to remember. For the fastest response, the easiest way to get a hold of us is emailing our general inbox, olingradadmissions@wustl.edu. That is monitored every day by multiple people. That prevents, people that might be traveling, they're out of the office. It is faster than voicemail, especially if you're living in a time zone that is significantly different than ours. That gives you absolutely the fastest response possible is utilizing that general inbox. And it is generally the email that we send communication from. So usually replying to that email, if it's the Olin Grad Admissions email, is the fastest way to get a hold of us. Turn over to Jessica.
Yep. So let's talk about events. How do you want to interact with us or visit or learn more? Maybe this is your first time interacting with Olin and you want to learn more about our programs. The first thing you can do is visit campus. If you're maybe an international student but going to school in the US, or you're visiting the US for some reason, we do have campus visit days. Those will be posted on our website after February 4th. February 4th, we will host a preview day here on campus. Information is available on our website. You can also visit us at fairs where we're traveling, or interact with us via these webinars or our Ask a Student feature. So on our website, there are Ask a Students who are student ambassadors for all of our programs. They're happy to answer questions from you if you want to talk more about the student experience or what it's like to be here at Olin. They're happy to answer those questions. So more specifically, let's talk about some upcoming webinars. So we have the graduate programs webinar, Advancing Your Career, on January 11th, 2017 at 12 p.m. Central Time. We will be joined by the Weston Career Center, who will talk more about their resources for students, talk a little bit about what the job searches look like, things like that. Then we will have a live with Olin Business graduate students. So a panel, a time for you to learn from our students. They really are our strongest asset here, and they really can answer any of your questions about the admissions process from their side or about just their experiences here at Olin. And then we will have an MBA webinar where we will learn from the Center for Experiential Learning on a Global Perspective, which is about the GMS program for the MBA students. And if you want to see us on the road, these are tours that we will be participating in. So we will be in Bangalore on February 4th. We will be in Mumbai and then Delhi. And then we'll also be traveling to Asia, to Seoul and Taipei. Taipei. It's early in the morning. Taipei, not enough coffee yet. Shanghai and Beijing. And so you can catch us on the road as well if that works best for you.
Great.
Yeah.
So we have definitely gotten a lot of questions through the webinar, so I think we're going to try to tackle some of these. We'll also note that the webinar, since you're attending today, it's being recorded, and the PowerPoint and the recording of the webinar will be available. There'll be a YouTube link that we send out and also a follow-up email to any participants. So if you missed anything, if you had any problems, definitely don't worry. This will be available to you as well. So there was a question earlier about qualities that we look for in the Kira video. Maybe I'll let Jessica tackle that.
So the Kira video is really to measure your English language communication ability. The questions are nothing that you need to prepare serious answers for. They may be things like, tell me how you like to celebrate your birthday. Just very kind of simple questions that really just allow us to see how you can communicate in the English language. So there's no specific qualities other than measuring your ability to communicate in English.
Yeah, absolutely. Very conversational.
Yeah, they're very, nothing you have to freak out or stress about in terms of preparing material for the questions. They're just really simple, straightforward questions.
And someone asked about letters of recommendation. We did not forget that. We do not require them for either the master's program or the MBA. So you will not be submitting any letters of recommendation. There's not a part of the application for that. So you do not have to worry about those. And it looked like there was a couple of questions about the resume, and I did mention we want a one-page professional resume. Generally, that you're going through in chronological order through the resume. So usually, if I'm looking at a resume, I should be able to easily figure out kind of your career progression, your job progression. Additionally, if you have any significant gaps in your work experience, I would definitely suggest that you address that in the optional essay. So there is a part of the application that's called the optional essay. It is optional, it is not required. And that would be a good time to address something like a significant gap in work experience. Maybe there was an illness, maybe there was some extenuating circumstance. That's a very good opportunity to address something like that. It would also be good if you had any significant dips in your grades. Really anything that has to do with your academic record. A good time to do that would be during the optional essay. I would not use the optional essay to talk about your test score. We don't really need any additional information about that. And you don't need to complete another essay. So don't think that we're asking for something. It really is just any extreme circumstances that you might want to address that would be good to address in the optional essay. Oh, I need to scroll. There we go. And so some people were asking about average GMAT, GRE, TOEFL scores, things of that nature. So on the website, you can look at the different profiles for both the specialized master's programs, the MBA programs, and get an idea of the GRE, GMAT, and TOEFL averages. And they do vary for the GMAT and GRE. They do vary significantly by program. So I would say, depending on which program you're interested in, that will drive kind of the averages for the GMAT and the GRE.
Yep. How to attain a waiver of the TOEFL. So there's not an actual form. You will just self-waive. If you meet the criteria, you will select TOEFL waiver on the application form.
All right. Let's see. Oh, so someone was asking, let's see, who is an international student? I guess we didn't really, we touched on this a little bit. So in the application process, an international student is someone who is not a U.S. citizen and not a U.S. permanent resident. So anyone else we consider an international student. So that sounds like this person might be a permanent resident. You, to us, are a domestic student. So the TOEFL or the IELTS would not be required for you. Let's see. So someone asked, they have significant work experience, or do they really have to keep it to one page? I would say generally, again, because we're looking at the most relevant information for your work experience, you might want to keep it to one page also because who you were 10 years ago is not who you are today. So definitely be condensing work experience that's farther in the past. So the longer ago that happened, probably the less significant that it is on your professional career. Especially if you are currently an undergraduate, you should absolutely only have a one-page resume for sure. So most of the specialized master students, absolutely a one-page resume.
Going back to the Kira video, all international students applying for specialized master's programs will need to do that Kira video. So when you enter in your citizenship, you will be sent the video link. So all international students applying for specialized master's programs here at Olin will need to do the Kira video.
And someone asked about the two essay questions. So what there is actually, we talked about the essay prompt, that is that 500-word or less essay asking you to introduce yourself. You were also asked to answer a short answer question. Those are two separate prompts. So the short answer question is, in 1 or 2 sentences, tell us about your immediate post-graduation goal. That is just one little snippet. Then you will write an essay, 500 words or less, asking you to introduce yourself. So you can submit them in the same document. Most students either number them and say 1 short answer response and then answer that, and then say essay and then answer the essay, or they include the prompt, however you want to format it, but they are separate. They are 2 separate things that you'll be writing about. One is the short answer and one is the actual essay itself. Let's see what else. And so we had a couple questions about scholarships. And so we'll mention that for both the specialized master's programs and the MBA programs, you're automatically considered for scholarship. So there's no additional step that you need to take to be considered for those. And students will be notified of their scholarship decision at the same time as their admission decision. So again, the notification date is March 29th. At that time, you will receive an admission decision and be offered any scholarship. And as I said, those are for both specialized master's and MBA. Let's see, we answered that one. And let's see what else.
There's been a lot of questions coming in really quickly. So if we don't get to your question, know that you can do two things. You can send an email to olingradadmissions@wustl.edu and we'll get back to you. Also, we will pull a report and we will try to follow up with everyone that has attended the webinar with any questions. So please know we'll reach out to you if you haven't gotten your question answered specifically.
And again, for the TOEFL waiver, most students, your transcript will say the medium of instruction. If it's not on your transcript, you can always submit a letter from your university if you have that. And again, we'll know that you've been studying at that university for 3 or more years because of the information you'll be submitting on your transcript as well.
Same thing again for specialized master's students. If you will be graduating, but you will have studied at that university for 3 years, we can see that from your transcript that you'll be finishing your degree from that school. So it's no worry to worry about that.
And just to clarify again about the timeline for interviews. So the application deadline is February 1st. At that point, we will start reviewing applications. So it is not a rolling process. We will start reviewing those applications at that time. So we will then be sending out interview invitations. They sometimes go out all at once. They sometimes go out in different stages. And again, you might not receive any communication before March 29th. So if you're not receiving the interview invitation and it's March, please, again, still be checking your inbox, still be checking your spam folder, and making sure that you haven't missed the invitation. The interview is a required part of the application. So if we want to move someone to admit them. So what that means is you might not receive an interview. However, that doesn't mean you're not going to be admitted. So that might mean you're going to be offered a position on the wait list. It might be that we're going to be doing interviews very late and that you're going to receive that very late. But again, thinking about the things that you can control in the process, please consider making sure that if your application is incomplete and we've said that you're missing something, that you follow up with that as soon as possible. Otherwise, again, we'll be delayed in reviewing your application as well.
And yes, we will reach out to you. I know for a while, sometimes especially on the international side for specialized master's programs, you'll remain in the submitted status for some time because we are reviewing all of the Cura videos. So it does take some time to move to that next step. But remember, we will reach out to you if something is missing. So don't worry.
So someone asked if their transcripts are too big to upload. There is an upload limit through the application. My recommendation would be to send those to our general inbox. Again, make sure you include your AYID, your name, and the email that you started your application with, and actually send that to us, and then we'll manually upload it for you. So rather than trying to squeeze it in and making it itty-bitty, because those can definitely be hard to read, feel free to send an email, and we'll make sure that that gets to our systems team and that they get that uploaded for you. So again, don't try to compress it yourself. Send us an email with the transcripts attached and we'll do our best to get those uploaded for you. All right, well, maybe we want to end a little bit early today. And as we mentioned, we will be sending out a follow-up email with the recording and the PDF that we used as well. As Jessica mentioned, we do get a report at the end that gives us all the questions. So if we weren't able to ask your question, we will definitely try to get to those via email. And again, if you have any further questions or you have a program specific question, we mentioned that the profiles for each of the programs that include average GMAT, GRE, work experience, things like that are all included on the website. But if you have further questions, feel free to send us an email again to that general inbox, and we'll make sure that gets to the right person. We know that for some of you, it is late at night, or maybe it's also, who knows, and that you're coming from all around the world. So we do really appreciate your time today. And again, thank you. And we absolutely hope that this has been a fruitful experience. Yeah, have a great day.
Thank you. Yes.